Hello and welcome to another episode of VMware Today, one of the many XenTegra podcasts. Part of what we do here that we like to call content with context. We love to take news and information from blogs all around the internet that relate to our technologies and our focuses here at XenTegra and combine that with our real world experience and discuss them here on our podcast. I'm joined today with Rob Campbell. Rob is a solutions architect here at XenTegra. Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Phil. How are you?
Doing well. And I forgot to introduce myself, but I'm Phil Sellers, your host for today. I'm practice director here at XenTegra for Modern Data Center. We define modern data center as not only what goes on within the four walls of your colo or your hosting facility, but also how you're consuming and using cloud native technology and hyperscale cloud partners like Azure and AWS and GCP. So that's our practice. Rob and I get the distinct pleasure of helping customers in that space. Rob, you're a relatively new addition here at XenTegra. How long has it been?
Yeah, it's I completed my first month.
Ah,
Yeah,
man, I can't
super.
believe that's already been a month.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say it again. I'm very happy to have you taking workload off of me, which is fantastic. So I'm selfish that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But how's that first month been?
It's been
How's it
great.
going?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great getting integrated with everybody at XenTegra. Working with our customers and figuring out solutions to a lot of these complex virtualization problems. Um, and getting a bunch of certifications that we need.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I love that you said solutions. Not to be pedantic, but uh, we use these words intentionally, right? Solutions are there for solving people's problems. That's why we call it a solution at the end of the day. So I think that's our superpower at XenTegra. We take multiple different vendor technologies and integrate them together to create a cohesive solution for our customers. And so I love that that's the word you chose to use. Because that's the way I like to approach things. We look at the total picture and try to solve that problem.
Yes, that's right. And grammar does count. And a lot of times in the IT world, we use a lot of crazy acronyms, little three-letter acronyms that we condense all this information and all this stuff into one tiny little three-letter acronym. And when we're talking about vSAN or VCF or something like that, there's a lot of information in that, and we just throw that around. So a lot of times, it's can be confusing
Yeah.
with so many different acronyms that we have, and some of them are the same acronym, some are the same
Some of the
thing.
same, and
Yeah,
then they're always changing at the same time too.
depends on the context.
That's it. Yeah, I was having a discussion with somebody the other day, and it had UC in the acronym, and I was like, "Does this mean unified communication, or did you leave off the E and actually mean EUC?" So, even as we navigate these conversations with folks, one little letter may matter.
Yeah,
Um,
UC, EUC, UCS. It could
that's
be a
it.
different thing.
All different things. And today we've got VCF. So talking about introducing VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2, the next step in private cloud modernization. This is a blog post on the VMware Cloud Foundation blog. It was posted by Sabina Anja on June the 25th of 2024. So shout out to Sabina. Thanks for giving us content to talk about. But before we dig into this blog post, I'll say I think for a lot of customers, the last 6 months, the changes at VMware may be the first time that they're hearing about VMware Cloud Foundation. But this isn't a new product. This isn't a new offering. It's been around for a while, hasn't it, Rob?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. I think it originally was created as a license in 2016, 2017,
Yeah.
sometime around there. And this was a collection of technologies that VMware had out there, and there you could purchase them and consume them individually. But it kind of made sense to combine them all together into this software-defined data center that everybody's trying to get to. That's where we're virtualizing the storage, we're virtualizing the actual machines, we're virtualizing the network, and we're being able to go out and manage everything and put policies behind everything. So that was around 2016 where you could first purchase it as a license.
Yeah, so it's funny because I also remember back around that time frame we had something called vCloud Suite. And so that was your core vSphere, but then you also layered on all of the vRealize management products. So vRealize Operations, vRealize Log Insight, vRealize Automation, and that was a way that I bought vSphere. They also had vSphere with operations management, or vSOM, as a license for a while. And so this was different in that it packaged together the components to virtualize the entire stack, but not necessarily all of the management products at that point.
Right.
So when it first came out, what was the purpose of vSphere Cloud Foundation? Or excuse me, VMware Cloud Foundation?
So I think the purpose is to give that software-defined data center license where you have this integrated stack of ESX, vSphere, vSAN, and NSX. Those three core components is the software-defined data center. Of obviously, you're going to have your vCenter in there. I think Log Insight, and then the software-defined data center manager. Those pieces together. Why do this? Well,
Right.
when you have everything defined by software, you get a standard kind of standardization of the design of everything. It's all one company. It's all VMware. And then also what was introduced would be lifecycle management.
Yeah.
Where you're automating a lot of the stuff that we have to do when we patch hosts and we patch firmware and we patch the NICs and the hard drives and everything. And if you could do that in an automated way, you're not going to have a lot of those late nights. You can plan it out and then push it out.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, driving better day one operations. I mean, taking some of the things they learned about VxRail and applying those to pure software, as well as the upgrades and making sure it's easier, and eliminating the interoperability matrices. I know I got caught in that, these recipes of which version of this works with which version of that. So I love the idea of this. They also borrowed, I think, some of the technology over time from the vRealize Suite, their lifecycle manager product, and brought that into SDDC Manager. So today we have a more comprehensive set of products. So what does VCF today kind of look like or encompass for us?
So VCF today, we've got
I'll toggle to this. For anybody watching on YouTube, we've got the blog post up, but there's also a feature compatibility matrix that I've got on screen as well.
Sure. So we went over on our last blog post, we went over VVF, so vSphere Foundation. So it's going to have everything that you have in vSphere's Foundation plus more. So we're talking about vSphere Enterprise, vSAN Enterprise with more entitlement. You're going to have all the different features with vCloud Director and vSAN. You're going to get more data per core. So you can stack that up, and we're talking about terabytes. So you're getting, in fact, terabytes of storage space as opposed to the vSphere Foundation where you're just getting 100.
Yeah. And you said vCloud Director. You're talking about vSAN Enterprise. We moved from that 100 gigabytes we talked about last week on the last episode to a terabyte of that per core.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
A lot more entitlement.
Yeah, you get a lot. You get a lot more entitlement, but you get the ability to do vSAN, more at an enterprise level.
Yeah,
and it's built in. Most organizations, even with this, will probably have to buy more entitlement to meet their storage needs, but you get a big chunk of it with the license. Um, I think I want to say that you might get 3 times more stuff with VCF than VVF, and
Mhm.
I think it costs 3 times as much. That's good. So another thing you get with VCF that you don't get with the vSphere Foundation is NSX.
Right.
So NSX is the software defined networking, um, HCX Enterprise, and then your area for operations, what used to be vRealize.
Yeah.
Those
So
are not
all of
included.
the
Yeah.
all of the network visibility stuff that you get. I think that's a huge value and something to talk about because as you're adopting NSX, having that network visibility into what's going on in this new virtualized networking layer is critical. Flow analysis, being able to plan for micro segmentation and things like that. There's a huge amount of value that you get with ARIA operations for networks. But keep going. There's more
Yeah.
management too.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we keep going down the list, you're going to get automation, lifecycle management that you don't have with vSphere. So that means that you're going to do a lot of the patching and everything with the vSphere Foundation, a little bit more manual process than you would with the Cloud Foundation.
It
Um,
also is the blueprints and building and design. So you're sort of self-service portal. So you can build out all of those, I need a 3-tier app with a database and it spits those out and automates the building process. So ARIA automation is a really handy tool for the enterprise looking to script and create a self-service catalog to offer out to their developers or their users.
Yep, absolutely. And with that operations enterprise, you're going to get all these different plugins for different third-party databases, like we were talking about today, like
Oracle,
DB2,
SQL
Oracle,
Server, yeah.
SQL.
We ran into DB2 today, so yeah, don't hear that one often, but it still comes up from time to time.
Yeah, then we've got monitoring troubleshooting applications with open source, to like
Yeah,
right out of the box monitoring, curated applications, and then you get the cloud, public cloud monitoring.
right.
So you can plug that. You're able to actually monitor your Azure tenant and AWS tenant and the stuff that's VMware based in there. Um,
Have you run into Total Visibility Suite, TVS management packs for ARIA operations? Have you ever used that before?
Not yet, no.
So this is an interesting one too. So the TVS management packs are also included with VMware Cloud Foundation. I'm a former user, so before it was called Total Visibility Suite, and I could be butchering that name, but it was owned by a company called Blue Medora. They wrote plugins for vRealize operations, and so what you could do is actually integrate this against any of your storage arrays, any of your server providers. So if you're running PowerEdge, they had the ability to monitor the Dell infrastructure and integrate with the Dell infrastructure. If you're running HPE, it could integrate with your OneView and put those sorts of metrics and stuff inside of our operations. So driving more and more intelligence to make ARIA a really total view of your infrastructure. And it's, as you said, because you've got the public cloud monitoring, now you have the best of both worlds. This platform can run and actually monitor both that hybrid cloud, public cloud, and private cloud environment that you're building all from the same tool, which is a huge, huge benefit. So I love all of the good stuff, but is it safe to say basically that VCF is kind of the total core VMware package? You get entitlement for basically everything?
Get pretty much everything. There's a couple little things you could buy separately or buy add-ons for.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the premier package for everything software defined data center.
So let's talk just a little bit about what are those add-ons and what could those be? Some of them just off the top of my head. We have and it's been renamed recently, but it's the DR protection. So it used to be VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery. It's
Mm,
now Cloud Live Recovery, I believe is the name of it, VMware Cloud Live Recovery. And so it's the cloud-based DR and ransomware protection. That's an add-on. You can add on additional entitlement for vSAN. You can add on distributed firewall features to NSX. So although this includes NSX Enterprise, does not include the distributed firewall feature. So that's an add-on, and there may be a couple more, but those are the big highlights. So basically, in one SKU per core, you pay for and can run everything in the VMware suite, the core suite anyway. So that to me is a good explanation of why so many people are talking about the price increases, right? So this is one of two options for enterprises to move forward with VMware subscriptions. This is the all-encompassing, all-inclusive sort of package, and it does come at a more premium price. You get a lot more problems, a lot more solutions, problems solved. So you get a lot more solutions in this package.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So by combining them, you're not going to get this pick and choose
Yeah.
or things like vSAN. I think the vSAN per core or per CPU was pretty high. Now it's kind of spread out now when it's going across the different cores compared
Yeah.
to what it was per CPU.
And I mean, the company's been pretty public about this. They want to drive adoption for the total package to get the total stack in the hands of customers. So this is the package as we're working with customers transparently that's getting the most discounts. The VMware team we're working with, they're able to offer a lot more in terms of flexibility for customers on pricing if you're looking at VCF versus VVF. But that kind of gives us a level set of what we're talking about with VMware Cloud Foundation, all-inclusive package, license per core. So what are we looking at with the new version of VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2?
Oh yeah, some new stuff that's in there. We've got the VCF import feature for vSphere and vSAN. So that
That's
means
a
it's
big one to talk about. Yeah.
yeah. So let's say that you've got your software-defined data center and the corporation that you're supporting has a merger and acquisition, and you've got to pull this new VMware cluster into your software-defined data center. So
Yeah.
there's a very nice import. The VCF import helps do that. So you have your existing policies and networks and
Yeah.
got your resources set up, and you don't want to have to manually do all this because you've got hundreds and hundreds of VMs that you need to pull in. You can set this up, migrate them in. That's a very nice tool.
Yeah, and it's an additional add-on because previously to get all of the SDDC manager goodness, you were going to have to deploy something new from SDDC manager. Now you don't. You can take brownfield deployments, pull them in, manage them with SDDC manager. That's a huge win for companies because nobody really likes to hear the answer that, hey, you've got to start over.
That's true. Another one is Cloud Foundation Edge. So you get a lot of these features at the edge. So, you've got your software defined data center, you've got your, 3 or 4 data centers and everything's there. But you might need more computing power at the edge in a branch office or a small, site somewhere that needs, it's got people, it's got a lot of things going on. We don't want to send all that stuff down the wire. So we're going to have something local. And that's where this edge computing comes in. So you can have your hosts out at the edge, but now extend all your software defined data center policies and tool sets. You can push that all to that edge location.
Yeah, and I think that's a big win because when we think about the edge use cases, AI is a big one, taking video or sensor data, actually getting value from that, interpreting that from raw data to turn it into some actual usable, intelligible data is a big thing. So edge use cases I can see being huge. There's also some things in here from a cloud experience for developers. A couple of key highlights there.
Yeah, you've got your Kubernetes grid. And you can have that service there, so you can run Kubernetes grid across the entire software defined data center and manage it. It's all native, it's all built in.
Yeah, so previous, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but like previously TKG and the Kubernetes grid service was tied to the version of vCenter you were on. Now they're breaking that out, making it a little more independent, so that you can move faster with your Kubernetes versions. Marrying that to the version of vCenter, which doesn't change that often, is not working out very well from a planning perspective. So now having that as an independent service lets you accelerate your deployments and version that more independently than upgrading your vCenter.
Yeah, that's right. So if you wanted to upgrade, Kubernetes, you would have to wait, and all this background stuff would have to happen. Now you can just change versions, keep both of them running at the same time.
Yeah, significantly better. There's also this one, simplified adoption of virtual networks, which is going to be a helpful feature. And then from security and resiliency, there's a couple key features we're going to talk about. One of those we talked about last week, which was the live patching and flexible upgrades. But the second one's near and dear to your heart, the dual DPU support.
Yes, DPUs, such cool technology. NVIDIA Smart NICs.
Yeah.
So this is a system on a chip where you can now, with I think it's vSphere 8.0, you can now have another host inside your host to do things. So you can have another ESX host running inside your host and take a lot of that workload off of the one that's running the one that's running the virtual machines.
Yeah.
Instead of running NSX and stuff on there, you can now put it on this card. Incredible. And now you can have two in each host.
Yeah.
Super cool technology.
Yeah, and that may make sense. So if you've got one dedicated towards doing vSAN type operations, one doing NSX type operations, that's going to be super helpful. So for anybody that's maybe not familiar with what a system on a chip is, what's an example of one of those? What is a system on a chip?
Yeah, so I mean, NVIDIA has the Bluefield, and then you can look up NVIDIA Bluefield 3 networking platform. So it's 400 gigabits per second. But so what is the Super NIC? So the Super NIC is an SSD hard drive. System on a chip is a complete system. The CPU,
Yeah.
memory, RAM, and the hard drive are all on this chip.
Where do we find them though commonly? I'm holding one up.
Oh, there we go. You found
In the phone. Yeah. I mean, it's the same ARM sort of architecture that our Android and iPhones run from. That's where we've gotten to know this whole system on a chip concept pretty ubiquitously out in the world. Now we're pulling those back in and starting to use them in the data center on these smart NICs to be able to offload and run, some things to save those cycles from having to run on a CPU. So let's talk about modernizing infrastructure. Let's dig in a little bit more. You mentioned VCF import and VCF edge. There's a few more things here in the article to call out as far as new modern infrastructure features. What do we have there?
So we've got the ability to do ESA stretch cluster.
Yeah. So that's the express storage architecture, which is the new vSAN style, completely based on NVMe storage, stretch clustering across multiple locations, so that metro type use cases can work. The other one with vSAN
is Max support, vSAN Max.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me because vSAN Max is the idea of pulling the storage away from a hyperconverged cluster, running just storage nodes that have all of the storage operations on them, and then running compute only sort of nodes so that you separate the storage and compute. So people that haven't liked hyperconverged have a choice. With vSAN Max, you can concentrate all of that computing for your storage array, vSAN, onto nodes that run just storage.
Yeah, no, I wonder what what type of data sets would probably benefit from that. Uh,
I
maybe
could
a lot
see,
of images, maybe.
images possibly. I see
Mhm.
it as a great use case for databases. When you're paying per core to someone like Oracle or Microsoft for SQL Enterprise, you don't want to have extra overhead taking part of that core that you've paid for. So
Okay, yeah,
I could see us, where we license out by the CPU core on some of these database platforms using this architecture with vSAN Max just to maximize the performance.
gotcha. So yeah, you're actually kind of segregating those hosts to just
Yeah.
run vSAN. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So as we continue to drive forward, let's talk a little bit about cloud experience for developers. We mentioned TKG is an independent service, no longer tied to vCenter, simplified adoption of networking, virtual networking. So a few other things here listed on the slide to talk about. The Cloud Admin Dashboard and Launchpad, both new UI interfaces for automating tasks. Anything else from a developer standpoint that stands out to you in this new release?
I know that the Kubernetes grid versions, that's a big one. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have been asking for that. Um,
Yeah, because open source Kubernetes as a project is moving really fast. So having to wait for, a vCenter upgrade in order to move to the next version of Kubernetes, I think this makes logical sense to me. It's one of the things I didn't like as I was looking at Kubernetes
mhm.
built in with Tanzu as a user in the past was that there's I understand why it was done, but I think the upgrade cycles are just they're not compatible for it. Um, we also have ESA, vSAN ESA file share support. I see that listed here for cloud developer experience. So a lot of people don't know that you can run file servers on vSAN natively. So that feature is very useful for developers, but for other use cases as well. So being able to do file shares off of the Express storage architecture is very helpful. Um,
Yes. Let me get into, we did talk a little bit about the lifecycle management and ESXi patching on our last podcast.
yeah. So as we
So,
roll security and resilience, let's talk a little bit more about that.
well, yeah, I mean, this is where we talked a little bit about the dual, DPU support. That's big. That's more of your resiliency. That's offloading a lot of those cycles. Fourth, the management, things like vSAN, things like NSX, you can put them onto these DPUs and then have them balanced inside, or actually you just can't have one. Um, so live ESXi patching. So if the host vendor is supported, like a Dell or an HP or Cisco, uh, which a lot of all the big names are,
Mhm.
you can do your VMware patching, and you can also do firmware patching
So
if
this is interesting
it's
because
supported.
to me it
Yeah.
seems a lot like vMotion, right? So with vMotion, you have a virtual machine running. You take a momentary pause as operation transfers from one host to another. And so that momentary pause allows us to do the vMotion magic. Live VCF and ESXi patching sounds like it's following the same thing, right? So you've got a running version of ESX or VCF. You've got VMs running on the host. They take a momentary pause of processing while it activates and switches over to that new version of ESX, and they resume. And so, sort of like vMotion, now you've got patching happening. Um, this is somewhat unexpected for me. I don't know that this was a problem I was trying to solve, because we vMotion things off and then we shut down the host and we reboot the host. And
Maintenance
it's
mode, right?
particularly, yeah, maintenance mode. We
For
had some
maintenance.
answers for this, right? But now we have a better answer, right? It's live patching just sounds cool. I don't know that this was something on my radar.
Yes, the live patching. That's right. So it's going to pause the virtual machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, we've got more flexible VCF patching here too. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's what I had talked about. I think just before
Oh, okay,
we
so
went into
sorry,
the
I missed
live.
that. Yeah, just the patch scheduling and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
you know, each one of these slides, I'm gonna also point out, has a vSAN component. So security and resiliency, we've also got vSAN data protection built in here. Um, that along with identity federation, those are both security features I think that help us, uh, you know, just do better overall with our security posture. So identity federation, with support for Entra ID, allowing that ubiquitous sort of identity to be used to log into VCF, to do maintenance and other activity. I think that's an improvement for us across the environment. There's other things in here about vDefend improvements, ransomware protection with SIM integration with vDefend, on-prem NDR for threat triaging, Ivy load balancer integration with the SDBC manager. So overall, a lot of additional features, but we're talking about the big ones here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm like, well, it's about time. You don't have to sign into all the different systems with a
Right.
different ID. Like, let's integrate that. So, I think that identity federation support is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So you can manage the different components with same administration credentials if you need to.
Well, and this is interesting too. So the blog calls this out, development insights. So VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2 was developed with a customer-centric approach guided by extensive feedback from our user base. And if I look across all the things that we talked about today, a lot of these things are things that I know our customers were asking for and that we were contributing back to VMware as far as requests to go back into integration. So, I mean, I think the dual DPU support, when the DPU support came out in version 8, having a second one, I think that's logical. Live patching, I'm sure, came from customer feedback, as we talked about. TKG as an independent service, that was most definitely a customer request. So, just in these, there's probably 10 or 12 different feature enhancements in each one of these three categories across the modernizing infrastructure, improving cloud experience for developers, and improving security and resiliency in this release. So it's good to know that that feedback is still being integrated. But then one of the hallmarks of VCF has been testing everything together, right? And so making sure that it operates and upgrades together. So that's also a win for customers that maybe it's not on your radar. Like I said, with live patching, wasn't something that I was looking for, but VCF and the SDDC manager, the way that you upgrade this, maybe that's a feature you weren't looking for, but you could benefit from in terms of, being able to upgrade and validate and provide better stability across your systems. So, um, as we kind of bring this to a close, any closing thoughts and stuff kind of around this release and what it's bringing to us?
Yeah, I think that this is another big step. A lot of features were released and pulled in here. I'm really interested to see at the end of the year what happens with pricing. A lot of our customers are want to see what the new pricing is going to look like. Um, but yeah, I think overall it's a great release. I
Yeah.
really like the I really like some of these features. Are really cool.
Well, and one other update. So this blog post was posted on June 25th. Update from just a week or so ago, a little over a week ago, on July 24th, 24. vSphere Foundation and VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2 are both now generally available. So these are
Yep.
things you can go and download and install and consume. GA has happened. So we'd love to help you. If you're curious about these features and adopting them, we'd love to have a conversation with you. You can always reach out to XenTegra by emailing sales@xentegra.com. Or you can find Rob or I on LinkedIn or by email. And we'd love to have a conversation with you about VCF 5.2 and how you can maximize the value of the new VMware subscriptions. We'd love to help you in any way we can. So, Rob, I appreciate you joining me for a conversation today. Hope today's been a fun conversation for you also.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and on behalf of everybody at XenTegra, I wanted to say thanks for spending a little time listening along. Please do reach out if you've got questions or where we could help with your VMware strategy. We know that this is a evolving space, and we've got answers and we've got strategies that can help you move this along. So until next time, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.